Well, happy Saturday evening to all of you, and thanks for taking the time to join. I'm trying a new setup here with some lights on the podium, so it might be a little flubby, so I apologize for that ahead of time. Welcome to the myofascial release class. We're going to start out by doing just a quick introduction to give you an idea of what myofascial release is. And then we'll be going into a sequence that will take you full body so you get an idea of how to actually do this on your own. So what is myofascial release besides a really sciencey medical sounding thing? So myofascial release, you probably have also heard it as foam rolling, trigger point therapy, or self-massage. It's called myofascial release because we have a lot of, our body is made up of fascia, which is a type of tissue, so our connective tissues. And this therapy goes through and helps us to lengthen, stretch, and release some of those tight spots. So it's a way we can start to like get those knots out, get some of that stress worked out and all. So like I was saying, it does help to relieve trigger points and some of those knots. And it works in a really simplified version by activating and releasing your muscle fibers. Something that I really love about it is you don't need to do a big fancy warm up for 10-15 minutes in order to do this like you may some kinds of stretching. What you do is basically get on this and you could start right away and it'll start to promote flexibility and recovery. Sorry, I'm losing my light sources here. Hang on. So it promotes some of this recovery and all too. So let me see. I don't know why this is not working. I apologize. There we go. Okay, now we're back. Yay for technology, right? Okay, so going back to how it helps with our flexibility and recovery is we reduce our injury risk because we are creating a lot more length to our muscles. We're reducing that tension. We're starting to set our body up so it could be more stable, and we create balanced musculature. Sometimes we could get like the left side is a little bit more tight than the right, especially when you're really, really right-handed versus if you do a lot of things with your left side, things like that. It also is a good way to reduce stress and decrease some tension throughout your body. So we're going to go through some of the equipment that you'll need for myofascial release. Basically, it breaks down into rollers and to balls. So I'm going to show you a few of them. First, we have a foam roller. You've probably seen these. They come in a few different sizes. This is a full length one. You can get them where they're a little bit more dense, so it means they're going to be firmer. What that means is if it's more firm, it's going to really get in there a little bit more on you, and if you're like tender and sensitive, it's not going to be as soft on you there. So you have the full length foam rollers. You have smaller, more travel size foam rollers. You have some of these are better for beginners. You can get a full one like I did and just cut it in half. But these are a lot more stable. You can also use these cool little tip, do like push-ups and things like that during your normal workouts. Some of the other things that we'll see are rollers that have this kind of grid pattern. And what that's going to do is act almost like fingers, like a massage therapist. And it's going to get in there and dig in just a little bit more. Some of the other things we'll see, we'll have rollers kind of like this, but they'll be concaved. And what that is to allow space for your spine, so you're not getting any kind of compression along your vertebrae. This in particular, this is a hard plastic, and this goes for your neck area, so it fits just right back on your neck, and you can roll with it like that. Getting into some balls, really there's nothing fancy that you need to buy. You can get a softball. That's going to be good for if you're like really sensitive areas around your shoulders, maybe areas in your glutes that you don't really want to dig into more. You can do, if you're really sensitive, you can use a tennis ball. Bad thing about the tennis ball is it's going to compress quite a bit. So you're going to not get really into those depths as much. And then you have my favorite, a lacrosse ball. Definitely worth doing this if you're going to do a ball. They're really cheap, just a couple dollars. And then you can get these and really dig into those areas like around your shoulder blades, really dig into those tight spots in your hips and so forth. All right, couple other things for you guys. We're going to go over a couple techniques to keep in mind. So first thing, I used to be a massage therapist way back in the day. That's how I got started in all of this. So with that, you want to roll with the pressure going towards your heart. So basically you don't want to put all of the pressure and then push all of your weight down towards your toes. You want to start with your feet and then work up towards your butt and towards the direction of your heart. The reason that we do that is because of the way that your cardiovascular system is set up. Veins bring all of the blood that's deoxygenated back up to your heart and your lungs for oxygenation and circulation. So how it does that is it works against gravity, and it has to have these valves that keeps the blood moving forward. So if we are rolling away from the heart, we're putting pressure on those valve walls within our veins, and we can put ourselves at risk. It's pretty low risk, but it does happen, especially if you have any kind of circulatory issues, but you could put yourself at risk to damage those valves, and you can create some kind of issues there. So always roll with the pressure towards your heart. Again, I like to start from my feet and then work up towards my head when I'm doing this. That's just one of those easier for me to keep track of what I'm doing, easier for me to stay present in the moment. When you get to a tender spot, then you want to make sure you're holding that for about 10 to 30 seconds. What that's going to do is think of it almost like massaging that knot. It can start to release some of that pressure. If you get to a tender area and you have to hold for about, that 10 to 30 seconds, go back through and roll that area gently 2 or 3 more times to help get everything moving again and flushed around. You can adjust your pressure with myofascial release to whatever your tolerance level is. That's the really nice thing, so you can always lift yourself up a little bit more. If it's too much, you can put all of your body weight into something if you need more. So feel free to do that with whatever's comfortable for you. It's not going to always be pleasurable when you're doing it, especially if you find a trigger point, one of those sore areas, but it's one of those, you have to have a little bit of pain in order to get those released. So if it's uncomfortable, that's okay, but if you can't tolerate it, you could always adjust that. There's sometimes, and I've experienced this too, when I'm just going to really suffer through it, especially I get really tight in my hips from cycling. I will sit there and I'll hold it, and after about 15-20 seconds I'll break out in a sweat. That is normal. Again, it's just whatever you can tolerate. A couple things to avoid. You don't want to roll your low back as much as it may be tempting to. You're not very well protected there. You don't have rib cage around your kidneys like you have rib cage and protection in your upper body. So do avoid rolling your low back. Avoid rolling your stomach. That's just gonna be gross, and you don't want to end up puking or pooping while you're doing this. And if you have breast implants, you want to avoid rolling your chest, as that can displace any implants that you have. I think we're a little bit more prevalent now to where people have different implants in different places. So if that pertains to you, don't roll over anything that is implanted because you don't want to displace it. That might be a better use for the lacrosse ball. And last thing, we could go over kind of quickly some other things you could do as far as progressions. There's a thing called cross friction that will do. So basically, you're creating like this cross pressure that will get you a deeper release. So if you're finding yourself able to tolerate a lot more pressure, you can do things by holding that tender spot and then wiggling or doing different movements. That'll create some more cross friction, and that can result in a bigger release. So with that, I'm going to take you from a head to toe myofascial release here. So give me a second to get set up. Go ahead and get your foam roller if you have one. All right, I think you guys can see this. All right, so getting on your foam roller, you want to make sure you're just not like plopping on. Always slow, controlled motions. Again, I like to start with my feet. So you can do this 2 legs at a time. You could do it 1 leg at a time. Focus on your breathing. And then we'll go with calf. We'll roll down. 1, 2, 3. Real slow, then you pull yourself back up. If you don't find any tender spots, you can do this 2 to 3 times. And then back up. Make sure you don't roll over any joints. 1, 2, 3, and back up. Don't forget the outside of your legs. So you can do this a couple ways. You can bridge yourself up, or I like to reduce time, so I will do both my legs at once. I'll get the inside of one leg and the outside of the other. 1, 2, 3, and back up. And again, 1, 2, 3, and back up. Switch over to the other side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to roll over into almost a push-up position. You'll put your ankles over, and then you can, depending on how deep you want to go, take a plank position. You can lay on your stomach. We're going to straighten our legs. And don't roll over your shin bones. You're going to have to tilt your legs just a little bit. And one more. Feeling good? Anything tender so far? Okay, so we're going to go over to our hamstrings. Again, you can do this 1 at a time. So this is really easy, something you can do just on a whim, doesn't take up a lot of time. If you have a few minutes in the mornings, you can do a 5-minute myofascial release program. It's a great way to get moving early in the morning. Okay, so this part I might make a weird face. We're going to do our IT band, or the outside of our leg. So I have a tender spot right there, so I'm going to hold that for about 10 seconds. You keep rolling. Again, stop if you have anything that's tender. Oh, that's not comfortable. All right. Especially you runners and cyclists, you'll have maybe a little bit more tension here on your IT bands. If you have a lot of tension, that could be an indication that you have an imbalance in your hips. Okay, I'm going to go to the other side. And one more for our other IT band. Okay, so at this point, you have a choice if you would like to go to work in the glutes or if you'd like to do the quads. We're going to go ahead and go right to our quads. Now, your quads aren't going to be just on your front, so think of them into 3 separate pieces. So you can angle your body to get whatever's going to be the most sore for you. So if your IT bands were sore, you're probably going to have some soreness more on the outside of your front thigh. So we're going to turn over. Again, don't put the foam roller on your knee, never on the joints. And then we're going to roll with the pressure towards our heart. And one more. Okay. We're also going to work a little bit more on our inside thighs here. Hold on, let me fix this light for a second. Again, you can put your legs up here to help support your body weight so you're not putting too much pressure there if you can't tolerate that. It gets a little harder to do though. Okay, so we're going to get into our glutes. With that, if you have your lacrosse ball, go ahead and put that to the side because that is a really big muscle and it's a really deep muscles, so we might need to get in there just a little bit more. So with the glutes, super easy. Just start by sitting on your foam roller. Now if you'll notice, that's going to be right on your tailbone, so if you wiggle back and forth, it's not really going to do that much. If you're sitting down a lot, it might feel kind of nice to just kind of hang out here for a second. Get a little bit of pressure there on that sacrum bone. I like to turn over just a little bit to one side and then just roll. You might feel a knot that's not very painful. You might feel like an elasticy thing or a pop that feels like a tight rubber band. That means if you have something like that, we're going to move foam roller out the way for a second. And then we're going to grab the trusty ball. This is super easy to use. You just put it right on whatever's hurting. So right here is on my butt. And then you just put the pressure as much as you can tolerate. Once you get it on the money, again, 10 to 30 seconds, hold. Focus on your breathing. And then you may, especially in the glutes, because there's so many different muscles getting in there, you may have to try this in a few different positions. This is really good to, if you're having like an upper body workout one day and a heavy lower body workout, to incorporate this into your workout warm-ups and cool downs, so you can really get some more focused attention on the muscles that you're working out there. All right, so with our booties and our legs good to go, we're going to get our foam roller back. And remember what I said earlier, we're not going to foam roll our low back, so you don't want to necessarily lean over right here, because then you're going to overarch and you can create some issues. So roll the foam roller about midway to your back, and then however much pressure you can tolerate, you can go all the way back. You might get a crack or two. You can relax your arms across your chest, down by your side. If your neck's hurting, you can support your neck You don't need to pull up on it. If it's really hurting, you're really tender, you can sit up a little bit more, keep your arms out, whatever's comfortable for you. Again, this is a recovery thing. It's not meant to really get you tired. So you can roll there. I kind of like to cheat a little bit and put a little bit more pressure towards my head on the way back. And get maybe an extra little pop in. I don't know if you heard it, but that was awesome. So some of you may have some pain with doing a standard foam roller, especially if it's really dense, if it puts pressure on your spine. That is normal. Again, you can use a concaved roller that's going to alleviate some of that spinal pressure. We can also come over here and start to work our lats. So yeah, we're going to look really cool like this. You just set it up right at the base of your lats there, supporting your head and neck, and then as much pressure as you can tolerate, bring that down. You might feel a little bit of resistance or tenderness when you get to your shoulder blade. That's okay. You just stop right there. If you need some extra, numminess to get in between your shoulder blade and your spine, that's a great place for one of your balls to come into play. You can also turn over and do kind of your rib cage. You probably don't want to go directly on your side. It's going to be a little tender. Again, this is a pretty forgiving recovery workout. So, again, you could just roll. And as you can tell here, I don't have my shoulder blade getting in the way, so I can get up to my shoulder a lot more. There's really not a lot of work we can do for our arms with this. So that's where we're going to leave static stretching, and then maybe using the balls or yoga stretches to get to our arms a little bit more. Now, you don't always have to be completely perpendicular to your foam roller. You can move it around. Full disclosure, I'm not going to roll my chest because I do have implants, so I will just show you kind of briefly how you can position for your chest. So you can hold at about a 45-degree angle, put the tip of the foam roller into that pec muscle, and then feel free to move around a little bit. This is that cross friction we were talking about earlier. Men will probably find it a lot more pleasurable to do the foam roller on their pecs versus women, so something to be aware of. If it's uncomfortable in a way that isn't making you feel like you're recovering, then don't do it. Something else I've seen people do with the foam rollers is they'll lay it down kind of lengthwise with their body. People will do some workouts on it, or if you're really stable, you can sit on it, lean back, and then you can roll kind of side to side. And that helps to get your erector spinae muscles just a little bit loosened up there. Okay, we can also do our neck with our foam rollers. So I think that the neck is a little bit more helpful if it's cocked over to one side. You can roll down. I like to find the spot, and then I like to use the cross friction. Shake my head no. Nodding your head yes doesn't get too much with it. But I like to move my head a little bit, and you'll feel those muscles engage and get a little bit more tender. If that doesn't work for you, if it's too much, again, you can roll. You want to try to get the pressure mostly from your skull down towards your heart. And this is going to feel really good if you have to sit at a computer desk all day. And that is an introductory sequence to foam rolling. So feel free to ask any kind of questions that you have along the way. Drop them in the comments. If you weren't able to watch this live, those of you who joined, thanks so much. And we will get going on some other classes here soon. Bye.